All right. There we go. Oh, come on. Hey, everyone. Welcome to my stream tonight. How are we all doing? Fantastic to see everybody. All right. So, thank you so much for stopping by the stream, whether you're here for the live or catching the replay later. These streams are basically my creative lab. So, the vibe here is pretty relaxed. If you're here live, feel free to hang out or jump into the conversation. And if you're watching later, enjoy the show. Have you ever had an idea that felt so important? Like, this is the one important. And I don't mean a bad idea. Oh, sorry. And then a week later, it's just sitting in your notes app like it never even mattered. And I don't particularly mean a bad idea. I mean a good one. One that had a purpose. A few paragraphs of support. Maybe you told somebody about it, and now it just sits there. Unfinished, unloved, and in the attic. Hidden away like a treasure. So, here's what I think is actually happening. Every idea that shows up, it shows up with main character energy, and your brain believes it every single time. That's the whole spine of tonight. Every idea thinks it's the star. And because of that, most of them never make it past the first act. So let's actually sit with this. Because it's not random. It's also not a personal failure. See, when a new idea shows up in your brain, it doesn't tag it as a maybe. It doesn't file it under explore this someday. It kicks down your door like a sibling on their way to annoy you. There's urgency. There's that feeling of write this down now or it's gone forever. It feels time sensitive. It feels like the chosen one. So, and here's the uncomfortable truth. That feeling is chemically real. Novelty triggers dopamine. Your brain literally rewards you for having all of these ideas before you've done a single thing with any of them. So you get the high, the excitement, and your brain goes, yes, good, do more. Which means generating another idea instead of actually working on the one you just had. It's a beautifully broken system, if you think about it. So Stephen King talks about this in On Writing. He describes ideas arriving like fossils already half embedded in the ground. The idea isn't the work. The excavation is the work. But even King himself, who has finished more books than most of us have started, has acknowledged ideas that he never went back to. Ideas that felt urgent and alive in the moment and just didn't survive contact with the page. Outside the writing world, Elon Musk is a genuinely fascinating case study for this. He publicly generates ideas at a rate that would give most people a migraine constantly. Hyperloop, Neuralink, buying Twitter on what appears to be a vibe. Some of those ideas had real legs. Some are still in the Hyperloop. The point isn't whether his ideas are good or bad. It's that idea volume alone tells you nothing about which ones are worth your actual life and resources. Here's the move that actually helps with this. What I call the parking lot. When a new idea shows up mid-project screaming about the importance of itself, you don't throw it away. You don't drop everything to give it the attention it desires. You simply give it a dedicated holding space, a separate document, if you will, a specific notebook or section or whatever helps. The parking lot is not where you work. It's where ideas go to prove themselves, because the main character energy fades fast, and what survives that fade is worth paying attention to. The problem isn't that you have too many ideas, it's that they all know how to audition, and they all are vying for your precious, precious time. So real talk, guys. How many ideas are currently sitting in your notes app or your notebook or your brain just waiting? Drop a number in the comments below or in the stream, and don't worry about it. No judgment. This is a safe space. I promise. Because if you found out how many I had, well, let's just say I have enough content to last me well into 2029 at this point. No holds bar. Okay. Okay. So, sorry, I need a break. That was a lot to talk about. Oh my gosh. The insanity. Okay, so grab a water, guys. Drink a water. Anyways. All right. That's such a nice little mini break. Okay, so let's talk about what actually happens to all of those ideas after the main character energy wears off. You end up in a graveyard with the graveyard of ideas. Old notebooks, half-written Google Docs, a note app so full of one sentences that scrolling through it feels like walking through a haunted house you built yourself. Titles that have nothing under them, concepts that make complete sense at 2 a.m., and now read like a fever dream. I have one of these. Give me a second, let me pull it up. The one I mentioned earlier. It's it's a bit much. Hold on. It's gonna take a bit to load. I kid you not. It's gonna take a bit to load. Alright. So, mine. My graveyard. Everybody say hi to my graveyard because it's kind of insane. And, okay, to be honest, I want you to look at this, but not as a failure evidence of it, but as evidence of something completely different. See, here's the twist I really want you guys to know when it comes to creating these lists in general. And it could be any idea. I'm saying in general, of course. But we need to remember that graveyard is not failure at all. I mean, not failure. Not failure. It's just ideas that need to be brought to life. So, Walt Disney is one of the cleaner examples of this from the outside the writing world, that is. He had a massive collection of projects that never made it to the big screen. Animated concepts shelved for years. Ideas cannibalized into other projects. Things that died quietly without ceremony. But the ones that actually survived, they were sharper than the ones that didn't. The graveyard wasn't a waste. Inside the writing world, Brandon Sanderson is an interesting case. He wrote something like 13 novels before he published anything. 13, guys. Those books aren't lost. He's talked about some of them publicly, mined them for ideas like he was trying to make the next bestseller. And he used them to figure out what was actually happening. Because the graveyard is the training ground. And some of these ideas were never meant to be finished. They were stepping stones. Some were meant to exist entirely to get you to that better idea. Some were just there to teach you something about what you don't want to write, which is generally useful information that doesn't feel useful at the time. Before you abandon something, do a 30-second audit. Ask one question. Is there anything in here that I can actually use later? A character name, a premise, a single line of dialogue, a specific image. Strip the parts and don't bury the whole thing intact if pieces of it still have life. Because graveyards are sad, but compost is productive. And the line I keep coming back to, no matter how hard I try to forget, is not every idea is meant to live. Some are just meant to visit. So, here's the big question for you guys. And answer this in the comments below. What's the one idea in your graveyard you're still thinking about? The one that won't fully die. And no judgment. I promise, no judgment. Because every idea, like we've said, always shows up like it's the main character. Most of them, I'd say about 98%, end up in that graveyard. And somewhere in between those two things in the gap is where the actual work happens. That's the part nobody talks about enough. Because the real question isn't, how do I have better ideas? It's, how do I figure out which ideas are actually mine? Shonda Rhimes wrote about this in the year of yes. She spent years saying yes to everything. Every project, every pitch, every idea that showed up with urgency attached. And she almost burned herself down completely because she couldn't distinguish between ideas that genuinely excited her and ideas that just felt important in that moment. The shift wasn't about cutting ideas. It was about getting honest about which ones actually belonged to her versus which ones knew how to make noise. That distinction matters because some of your ideas actually belong to you. They're connected to something real though. A question you're actually obsessed with. A thing you genuinely need to figure out. A story only you can tell in a specific way. And some of your ideas are just dressed up as avoidance. They shout the loudest when you're in the messy middle of something hard. Because, like with everybody, your brain would generally rather start something new than push through the hard parts of what you're already doing. So when a new idea hits and it feels urgent, ask yourself, is this idea exciting? Or is it just more exciting than the thing I'm currently doing? Those are different questions with different answers. One is inspiration. The other is escape. And you can love both without treating them the same. Most of your ideas are not main characters. They're side characters in a much bigger story. Your story as a creator. And as we know, side characters matter. They add texture. They show you things. They sometimes steal the show. Sometimes. But they're not the protagonist. You are. The project you actually finish is. See, you're not missing out on your ideas by not chasing all of them. You're just choosing which ones get screen time. And that's not loss. That's craft. So maybe the goal isn't to act on every idea. Maybe it's just to recognize which ones are worth staying for. All right. So, quick recap of what we covered tonight. So every idea shows up with main character energy because our brains are tied to dopamine, which is novelty, and it's also running a scam on you. The graveyard isn't a failure. It's a treasure trove. It's a training ground. And there's probably something in there worth mining before you bury it. And the practical stuff. The parking lot, the 48-hour rule, the honest questions. None of that is about killing ideas. It's about making sure you commit to the one that actually has a shot. Now, if you want feedback on your own writing, everything's in my link tree. This is WriteSparky, and we will see you in the next video.